Molo Sanbonani, hello, how's it? Good morning to this, the Wednesday edition of Vuka Nazo, your morning news analysis show. My name is Sihle Ngobese. Remember, folks, your only price of admission is to hit that like button and please share the stream. A reminder to you that we have a website. Visit us at BigDaddyLiberty.com. There, of course, you can also pledge some financial support to the channel. Anything between 50 to 100 Rand. We average about 75 Rand per person. Guys, remember, if you're watching on YouTube in particular, please subscribe to the channel. Join the over 40,000 of you now, yay, who are subscribers to the show. Help me reach my goal of 50,000 subscribers. With that being said, enough with the jibber jabber. Let's get straight into the news. Just what the hell is Cyril Ramaphosa, the president of this country, smoking? What holy herb is he smoking for him to suggest, of course, in an affidavit responding to the UDM, which is taking his government to court over the load shedding issue? The response by the president, of course, to this particular case, which will be heard on the 20th of March in the High Court, is that, oh no, this load shedding crisis, well, it's not really our fault because it's none of the responsibility of the three spheres of government to provide electricity.
Not my problem.
Huh? Just what the hell is Ramaphosa suggesting here? Because if that were true, then government should not be getting in the way of anybody, indeed any private company coming forward and providing electricity in this country. We wouldn't have to come to government to seek permission to provide a service which, guess what? Government is failing to provide. Yes, I said government is failing to provide because Eskom, at the end of the day, being a sole provider of electricity in this country, is a government entity. It is owned by government. So what the fudge is Ramaphosa saying here? But again, don't take it from me. Let me read this EWN piece which wrote up the president's response as follows. Now, the president said in the affidavit that the three spheres of government were not required by the constitution to perform powers that were not vested in them. It said none of the government responders had the responsibility to supply electricity to the people of South Africa, and they were therefore not in conflict with the Constitution. End of quote. What's this guy saying? What's say, man? See, I gave that to you in 3 languages. This guy is full of crap. And again, this is what happens when you have politicians in this country who are so used to getting all the benefits, all the perks, all the adulation, all the recognition and the power, but none of the responsibility. None of the responsibility. This is how shady politicians who are like that speak. They speak exactly like Ramaphosa is speaking right now, where it's a forked tongue, almost like a snake, where he knows full well that Eskom, which is effectively owned by the national government, is a government entity. It is a government-run business. And I've told you before on the show, anytime you have government-run pretty much anything, it will fail at it, especially when that responsibility or that service or that good shouldn't be run by government. It will be best run by the private sector. Indeed, in its response to this, some of the parties involved in this case, remember I mentioned that the UDM has brought this case with about 17 other parties to this particular case. The lawyer for Action SA, which is party to this particular case, one Michael Herbst, rightly responding and saying that's nonsense. Again, let me go to this EWN piece in which he says the following. Herbst, of course, disagreed and argued that government was a shareholder in Eskom, quoted directly as having said, although one can say that it's situated to be at arm's length, in other words, Eskom is a parastatal, it's licensed to ensure that electricity is there. But ultimately, the shareholder of Eskom is the government through the minister. So if that argument had to be accepted, how does government then not know what is going on in a company where it is a shareholder and it has an interest in it? End of quote. And that question is absolutely correct, but it's a moot point insofar as the argument being made by government, the argument being made by Ramaphosa is simply stupid. It's asinine and it's disrespectful to the millions of South Africans who, maybe right now as you're watching this, you're sitting in darkness, or rather you're sitting without lights. It is a complete disrespect that the ANC government has for South Africans who it that is the ANC, has plunged this country into darkness since 2008. For a president of that particular party, and indeed the president of the country, to come out and now say, well, actually load shedding is not our problem, electricity is not our concern either, is absolutely disrespectful. And no matter how this court case plays out, you, dear voter, have a responsibility to punish the likes of Abu Cyril Ramaphosa and the other ANC douchebags. All right, a bit of feedback now, indeed the latest on this ongoing saga between Andre de Ruyter, the former Eskom CEO, and indeed the ANC, the government, and everybody else. Andre de Ruyter has become a bit like Tupac. It's him against the world. Now, Mmusi Maimane, the latest figure to step in on this particular matter via his party or movement called Build One South Africa, or BOSA, those individuals now stepping in, having laid a criminal charge against the former CEO Andre de Ruyter and Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan. You remember Pravin Gordhan was our Momish of the week from last week, rightly so. But nonetheless, Maimane describing, of course, as he stood outside the Cape Town police station, that these charges were aimed, of course, at having de Ruyter actually spill more beans and actually name names. Let me read this News 24 piece that wrote up the story as follows. Now, BOSA wants the police to investigate the allegations made by de Ruyter about the involvement of a, quote, high-level ANC politician in corruption at the power utility. De Ruyter also said he had reported these alleged corruption to the cabinet minister. Maimane said, of course, de Ruyter would have to disclose the identity of the ANC politician, the cabinet minister he spoke to, and whether he obeyed Section 34 of the Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act, end of quote. Now, of course, this is the very same piece of legislation that the ANC indicated that it was giving de Ruyter 7 days to effectively report officially these allegations to. You remember we covered that in a previous Vuka Nazo. Oops, there it is, the thumbnail. Please make sure you catch that episode. But of course, and I mentioned yesterday, and I'll say it again now, all of these shenanigans with the politicians stepping in, wanting their fair share of the media attention, of course, on this matter is neither here nor there. The person who really is important here is, I suppose, Andre de Ruyter, and perhaps, maybe, he will depose himself and put forward information with names and all of that information that sees maybe an investigation being launched, or maybe he won't. Either way, he is the central figure here, and the politicians who are effectively pursuing him, and indeed the other individuals such as SAFTU, that's the South African Federation of Trade Unions. You remember, of course, its leader, Uzwelinzima Vavi, also indicating that launched or at least reported this matter to the police to pursue de Ruyter, to have him tell the truth. It seems like it's becoming a bit of a crescendo, and at the very top of it is Andre de Ruyter, with everybody holding their breath. Will de Ruyter spill the beans, or will he not? Remember, de Ruyter himself has fled the country, seeking safe refuge, of course, after he indicated that some of the individuals involved in the deep root and deep set corruption not only go to the very top of political structures and political power, indeed naming cabinet ministers being involved, but also he mentioned criminal syndicates that have hitmen and indeed private armies, in a sense. These 4 syndicates, as was revealed in a Daily Maverick piece, siphoning as much as R1 billion a month, are involved in this. So I don't blame him for seeking refuge in another country. What we'll do here on the Big Daddy Liberty channel is we'll do a special episode on this particular matter, especially looking at those 4 syndicates, as was revealed in that Daily Maverick piece. So look forward to that sometime this week, if not on Sunday on Liberty and Friends. Until then, all eyes, if I can quote another Tupac song, all eyes are on Andre de Ruyter. Wow. Whilst you and me are struggling financially barely making ends meet. In this country, if you are a political figure, political elite, indeed, if you're a minister in government, then you are part of a R1 billion housing scheme. You as a minister are getting the best of the best, the creme de la creme at our expense as an impoverished South African public. What am I talking about? Of course, I'm talking about the revelation by the Minister of Public Works herself, also living that R1 billion housing life, where the homes, the mansions they live in are effectively, collectively worth just under R1 billion. While of course, in addition to that, we as taxpayers, we as South Africans barely making ends meet, also paid about R2.6 million to shield them from load shedding. The pains of load shedding. How could these ministers ever endure the load shedding that they gave the rest of us? But they take money from our pockets in order to live a very comfortable life, safely ensconced in these R1 billion mansions. This, of course, I'm taking from a parliamentary question that was asked by the DA. The response, of course, coming from a rather dubious character in Patricia de Lille. Yeah, that's right. The lady who's hopped from one political party to the next, who effectively sold good out to the ANC for a nice plush position as a minister. But nonetheless, that character coming forward with information about their R1 billion housing portfolio, saying the following, as I quote this IOL piece. Now, de Lille said that no less than 97 mansions are currently occupied by ministers and their deputies in Cape Town and Pretoria. In Cape Town, 26 ministers and 32 deputies live in state-owned residences, and in Pretoria, 14 ministers and 25 deputies currently occupy 3 mansions. The homes, she says, in Cape Town are currently worth nearly R830 million, whilst the homes in Pretoria are valued at about R137 million. End of quote. Wow. The diamond life. Must be nice. It's being a minister in this country. It's a nice life, that. It's a good job if you can get it. It's made a good job because it takes good money from us, the hard-working, faith, flag, family, and freedom type South Africans, in order to fund the political elites and their families living wonderful fat cat lives at the expense of ordinary South Africans. Now, I'm drumming this point on purpose because the money they take from us is, and notice how I say they take it from us. No one pays taxes. Taxes are taken from you, and they're often taken in the assumption that this money will do something of good to serve poor South Africans, to make sure that that chap who lives in a shack in Enanda or a shanty house on a sand dune in Cape Town, that chap suddenly has a better shot at a better future. Oh no, that money is definitely not going to them. It first has to pass through the pockets of these wealthy, well-to-do political elites so that they live these R1 billion housing portfolio, and of course, millions of rands of diesel and generators that we fund for as we suffer their decisions. As I've always said, the real divide in this country is not between black or white, as much as politicians love playing us against each other based on race. The real divide in this country is between those who are in the political elites and within the circle of well-to-do politicians, and effectively the rest of us who are barely making ends meet. That is the real divide in society, and only you can change it in the next election. All right, that's it for this episode of Vuka Nazo. Let me know if you enjoyed this episode. Remember, of course, if you love the show, then please leave a like and share the stream. And if you're watching on YouTube in particular, please subscribe to the show. Help me reach my goal of 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Now, with that being said, we also have a website. Find us, of course, at BigDaddyLiberty.com. With that being said, thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow once again, bright and early, for another episode of Vuka Nazo.